All right, let's dive right into this explainer. You know, social integration is way more than just a 9 to 5 profession. It's really the empathy engine of society. It's kind of like this invisible machinery working behind the scenes, giving folks the crucial support they need to feel safe, valued, and genuinely included in their communities. Just listen to this quote from Carla. She found refuge in a shelter after losing her job and struggling to pay rent. Now, what's really striking here is that she doesn't talk about the building or the paperwork first, right? She goes straight to the kindness of the workers. That human connection, that's the absolute core of social integration. So here's our rapid-fire orientation for today. First, we'll meet the professionals on the ground. Then, we're looking at the environments of change. After that, we'll hit the art of communication. And finally, formal versus informal language. All right, section 1, meet the professionals, the faces behind the empathy engine. Let's actually look at who makes up this field. You've got your shelter coordinators, like Carlos, organizing food and safe sleeping arrangements for homeless individuals. Then there are residence educators, like Emily, who help older adults with daily routines. You might also run into a community mediator, let's call her Fatima, guiding immigrant families, or a gender equality technician like Jordy, pushing inclusion campaigns at the city council. Now, what's super fascinating here is that words like friendly, responsible, caring, and patient, these aren't just nice compliments. They're actual, literal job requirements. I mean, to do what Emily does, you absolutely have to be patient. Or to navigate complex cultural dialogues like Fatima, you've got to be open-minded and empathetic. These are the core qualifications. Moving right along to section 2, environments of change, where the transformation happens. So, you're probably wondering, where do Carlos, Emily, and the rest actually spend their days doing all this? Well, they literally go wherever the vulnerability is. First up, we have shelters, which are all about rebuilding stability and autonomy. These are critical first steps for vulnerable populations, exactly like what Carla experienced. They aren't luxury hotels, they're safe havens, where folks facing homelessness or domestic violence can just catch their breath, and start rebuilding their independence. And if you're working in one, mastering this specific vocabulary is huge. We're talking terms like accommodation, laundry facilities, psychological counseling. These are the tangible things that restore a person's dignity. When you're helping someone with a job application or guiding them through a workshop on digital skills, you're literally using these concepts to build a ladder out of crisis. Next up on the environments list, schools. Here, the whole goal is ensuring equal opportunities to learn and feel included. Social integration pros work side by side with teachers to make sure the classroom is a safe, equitable place for absolutely everyone. In this setting, the toolkit changes. Workers are dealing with concepts like absenteeism, students with special needs, and intervention plans to keep kids from falling behind. If a student is having behavioral issues, it doesn't just stay in the classroom. The worker coordinates with youth organizations and families to wrap that student in comprehensive support. And then we have hospitals and health centers focusing on comprehensive care beyond just medical treatment. Social integration workers are right there in the trenches with doctors and nurses because, well, healing a physical ailment is really only half the battle. This is where dealing with things like illness, disability, and social isolation comes into play. Arranging discharge planning is absolutely vital. Think about an elderly patient recovering from surgery. The doctors fix the body, sure, but the social worker makes sure that patient gets the emotional support and comprehensive care they need when they go home to an empty house. Okay, section 3, the art of communication, which is pretty much the ultimate tool belt. Now that we know the who and the where, let's talk about building trust through effective workplace interaction. Communication isn't just some boring academic rule. It's the method for connecting with vulnerable people. The way you speak, your tone, the exact words you choose, they can literally either build a wall or open a door. Which brings us to section 4, formal versus informal language, knowing your register. A huge part of this job is knowing your audience. Just look at this stark contrast between formal and informal introductions. You definitely use how do you do or may I introduce you to with an official from the city council. But honestly, imagine using that stiff language with a frightened teenager at a shelter. Instead, a simple, how's it going? This is Emily, instantly lowers the temperature. And this shift extends right down to the individual words. Swapping out formal words like request, verify, assist, and apologize for informal ones like ask for, check, help, or say sorry totally changes the vibe. Writing a hospital report, you verify and request.
Checking on a resident in a retirement home, you just ask if they need help. Knowing when to flip that switch is everything.
Plus, you've got to ask some pretty sensitive questions, and your grammar dictates how those land. You use auxiliary verbs for WH questions like, where do you live, to get details. You drop auxiliaries for subject questions like, who pays, to understand the situation. And you use closed yes/no structures like, are you British, to just verify concrete facts quickly and politely. As we wrap up this explainer, here's a question for you. Knowing the power of your words, how will you adjust your language to build a bridge today? Because whether you're in a shelter, a school, a hospital, or just out in your own neighborhood, empathy isn't just a feeling, it's an engine. And your words, they're the fuel that keeps it running.